Earth was special, not because of its blue oceans or green forests, but because it was hidden. A strange cloud of space dust and energy waves kept it secret from the rest of the galaxy for thousands of years. This was lucky for the humans who lived there, though they did not know it yet. Out among the stars, a terrible empire called the Galactic Hegemony ruled with cruel power. For 500,000 years, they had found world after world and taken over every intelligent species they met. The hegemony was led by the Zoraxians, tall beings with gray skin who believed they were born to rule others. They put special machines on planets they captured. These machines sent signals that made other beings obey without question. On Earth, humans knew nothing about this. They built cities, went to space, and even made homes on Mars and the Moon. By the year 2157, many people worked in space. One of these people was Lisa Harrington. Lisa worked at the Moon Observatory where she watched the stars and space around Earth. She had long red hair that she kept tied back and eyes that missed nothing. One day she noticed something strange. In her readings, the dust cloud that surrounded our solar system was changing. Parts of it were getting thinner. "Look at these numbers," she said to her boss. "Something's happening to the cloud. It's like it's breaking apart in spots." Her boss didn't think it was important, but Lisa kept watching. 3 months later, her machines picked up something moving at the edge of the solar system. It wasn't a comet or an asteroid. It moved in ways that natural space objects didn't. Around the same time, on the space station orbiting Jupiter, Joe Franklin was working with communication equipment. Joe was a quiet man with dark skin and steady hands who had grown up in Georgia. His job was to listen for signals from Earth's distant space probes. Instead, he caught something else. Strange patterns that didn't match any human broadcast. Joe sent the signal patterns to Earth's Space Defense Center. "I think someone else is out there and they're talking to each other," he wrote in his report. At first, no one believed him. Humans had searched for aliens for centuries with no luck. But when more strange signals came in, Earth's leaders finally paid attention. They gathered in secret to talk about what to do. Admiral Frank Dawson led these meetings. He was an older man with white hair and a voice that commanded respect. "We need to prepare," he told the others. "If someone is out there we don't know, if they're friendly." They decided to build more spaceships with weapons just in case. They also sent secret probes toward where the signals came from. For 6 months, Earth got ready, while most people went about their normal lives not knowing anything was wrong. Then one day, Lisa Harrington's screens lit up with warnings. Something big had entered the solar system. A ship larger than anything humans had ever built. Soon after, 5 more appeared. "They're heading for Earth," she reported, her voice shaking a little. Joe Franklin was the first person to see the aliens. Using special equipment, he captured images from inside one of their ships. The Zoraxians looked almost like humans, but with gray skin, no hair, and eyes that glowed slightly in the dark. Joe also translated some of their messages. What he learned terrified him. "They're talking about processing humans," he told Admiral Dawson over a secure line. "They say we'll make good workers once we're adjusted. Admiral, they've done this before many times." Admiral Dawson called an emergency meeting of Earth's Defense Council. Leaders from all major nations gathered to hear Joe's report. "These aliens, they call themselves the Hegemony. They've taken over hundreds of worlds," Joe explained. "They have machines that can control minds. They plan to land in major cities in 3 days." The room fell silent as everyone understood what this meant. Humanity was about to be enslaved. "We won't let that happen," said Admiral Dawson. "We've prepared for this day. Operation Shield begins now." All over Earth, hidden defense systems came online. Ordinary people were shocked when the news broke. Aliens were real, and they weren't friendly. Some people panicked. Others volunteered to fight. When the first hegemony ships entered Earth's atmosphere, they found something they didn't expect: resistance. Human fighters launched from hidden bases. Ground weapons fired at the alien ships. The battle for Earth had begun. Lisa Harrington wasn't a soldier, but she fought her own battle. She studied the dust cloud that had hidden Earth for so long and discovered it gave off energy that disrupted hegemony technology. Working day and night in her lab, She found a way to copy this effect. "It's not perfect," she told Admiral Dawson, showing him a small device, "but it should disrupt their control signals for a while." The first real test came when Zoraxian troops landed near Chicago. They brought their mind control machines, expecting humans to fall under their power easily. Instead, most humans kept fighting. A Zoraxian commander was captured in the battle. Under questioning, he revealed something surprising. "How are you resisting?" he asked his human captors. "All other species fall to our control." Tests showed that human brains were different, in one small way, from the other species the hegemony had encountered. The control signals didn't work as well on humans, and Lisa's device made the protection even stronger. The fight was hard. The aliens had better weapons and more ships. Several cities were damaged in battles. But humans kept fighting, using their knowledge of Earth to hide and strike back. After 2 weeks of fighting, the hegemony ships pulled back to space. They didn't leave completely but stayed in orbit, watching. It seemed they weren't used to resistance and needed to make a new plan. During this break in the fighting, scientists studied the captured Zoraxian and his equipment. They learned more about the hegemony and made a shocking discovery. "There are others out there fighting them," Joe Franklin reported after translating more messages. "Resistance groups on conquered worlds. They've been fighting for centuries but never winning." Admiral Dawson looked thoughtful. "Then maybe they just need some help." A plan began to form. Humans wouldn't just defend Earth, they would take the fight to the hegemony. They would find these resistance fighters and work together. "If we stay here, they'll just keep coming until they win," Admiral Dawson said to the Defense Council. "But if we go out there, we might find allies. We might even free others." 3 months after the first attack, Earth launched its first deep space warship. Its mission: make contact with the resistance and bring the fight to the enemy. The ship was called the Liberty, and its journey would change the galaxy forever. As the Liberty left Earth's orbit, Lisa Harrington watched from her lab on the moon. "Good luck," she whispered, though no one could hear her. She knew that the real battle was just beginning. The news spread among the stars. For the first time in 500,000 years, a species had stood against the hegemony and not fallen. Hope, long forgotten in the galaxy, began to stir again. 5 years passed since the first alien ships came to Earth. The hegemony had not given up. They kept ships around Earth's solar system, watching and waiting. They didn't attack with full force because they had problems in other parts of space. Rebellions had started on several worlds after news spread that humans had fought back and won. Earth had changed. People worked together to build defenses and study alien technology. Cities now had shield domes over them. Space stations had weapons. Everyone trained to fight just in case the aliens came back in bigger numbers. Dr. Ben Cooper led the team studying the hegemony mind control devices. He was a tall man with kind eyes who used to teach at a university before the aliens came. Now he worked in a secret lab under the Rocky Mountains. "Look at this," he said one day, showing his team a screen with brain scans. "When the control signal hits human brains, something interesting happens. We don't just resist it, our brains actually push back." One of his team members, Judy Kim, asked, "Could we use that somehow? Make our resistance stronger?" Ben nodded, slowly. "I think we could do more than that. I think we could reverse it." They worked for months, testing ideas on the captured control devices. Finally, they created something new, a signal that could break the hegemony's control over other species. They called it the Freedom Protocol. "It's not permanent," Ben explained to Admiral Dawson. "It works for about 6 hours. But during that time, any enslaved being would be free to think for themselves again." Admiral Dawson understood what this meant. We could wake up entire planets. While Ben and his team worked on the Freedom Protocol, others took the fight to space. Captain Kate Summers commanded the stealth ship Horizon. She was a former pilot with short blonde hair and a scar on her left cheek from an early battle with the hegemony. Kate's ship was specially built to slip past the hegemony blockade. Her mission was to find resistance fighters in nearby star systems and bring back information. It was dangerous work. If caught, her crew would either die or be mind-controlled. On her fourth mission, Kate found something important. Her ship picked up strange signals coming from an abandoned mining facility on a small moon. When she took a team to investigate, they found aliens hiding there. 20 beings from different species who had somehow escaped hegemony control. Their leader was Xanthar, a tall, thin alien with blue skin and 4 arms. He had been fighting the hegemony for over 70 years. "We heard rumors," Xanthar said when he met Kate. "Stories about humans who fought the Zoraxians and won. We thought it was just a tale to give hope. But it's true." Kate brought Xanthar and his group back to Earth. They met with Earth's leaders and shared everything they knew about the hegemony, their ships, their bases, and how they controlled thousands of worlds. Xanthar looked at maps of the galaxy, with Admiral Dawson. "Here," he said, pointing to a star system not far from Earth. "Planet Viridian. It's a labor world where they force the local people to mine metals. Security is lighter than on core worlds. If you want to test your freedom protocol, this would be the place." A plan formed. They would send a small team to planet Viridian with a device to broadcast the freedom protocol. If it worked, they would wake up an entire world of slaves and show them freedom was possible. Kate Summers volunteered to lead the mission. With her went Alan Morris, a quiet man who could fix any machine and had survived 3 battles with hegemony forces. Xanthar also joined them, along with 5 of his most experienced fighters. The journey took 3 weeks in the upgraded Horizon. They had to move slowly and carefully to avoid hegemony patrols. When they finally reached Viridian, they saw a green planet with 3 moons. Scans showed large mining operations and millions of life forms working like machines. "Look at them," Alan said, watching through the ship's cameras. "They move like robots. No rest, no talking, just work." Kate's team landed in a forest far from any hegemony base. They carried the Freedom Protocol device in a special case. It was the size of a small suitcase but very heavy because of its power source. For 2 days, they moved carefully toward the main control center, hiding from patrols. They saw the slaves up close, different alien species walking with empty eyes, working until they fell from exhaustion, then getting up to work more. "I was like them once," Xanthar told Kate quietly as they watched. "Before my resistance to the control started to develop. Most never break free." They reached the control center at night. It was a tall tower with antennas on top that sent the control signals across the planet. Guards patrolled outside, Zoraxians with energy weapons. Alan studied the building. "We need to get to the broadcast room at the top. From there, we can send our signal through their own system." The fight to get inside was hard. 2 of Xanthar's fighters died. Kate was hit in the arm by an energy blast that burned through her suit, but they made it inside and fought their way up. In the broadcast room, Alan worked quickly to connect their device to the hegemony systems. Outside the tower, alarms sounded. More guards were coming. "Hurry," Kate said, holding her weapon, at the door. "We won't be able to hold them off much longer." Alan finished the connections. "Ready," he said, and pressed the activation button. A new signal went out from the tower, spreading across the planet. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then they heard sounds from outside, confused voices, cries, and something else, cheers. On screens in the broadcast room, they watched as the slaves stopped working. They looked around as if waking from a deep sleep. Some fell to their knees. Others hugged each other. Some cried. "It's working," Kate whispered. But then they saw hegemony ships descending from orbit, dozens of them, heading to different parts of the planet. The Zoraxians had realized something was wrong and were coming to regain control. "We need to leave," Xanthar urged. "Now, before they block our escape." As they fought their way back to their ship, they saw the newly freed beings, fighting the Zoraxians with whatever tools they had. They were untrained and had few weapons, but they fought with desperate courage. Kate's team made it back to the horizon and escaped just as hegemony warships entered the atmosphere. As they flew away, they received thousands of messages from the planet, thanks, questions, and warnings that the hegemony was landing troops everywhere. Later, in deep space, they learned the terrible news. Unable to quickly regain control of Viridian, the hegemony had destroyed the planet completely. Billions died. When Kate returned to Earth and reported what happened, a heavy silence fell over the meeting room. "We failed," she said, her voice tight with pain. Admiral Dawson shook his head. "No. We proved the Freedom Protocol works, and even though they destroyed that world, they can't destroy the hope we created. Other worlds will have heard what happened. They'll know freedom is possible." Ben Cooper, who had designed the protocol, spoke up. "We'll make it better, stronger. Next time we'll free a world and be ready to defend it." Word of what happened on Viridian spread through secret channels across the galaxy. The hegemony tried to hide it, but could not. For the first time in thousands of years, the enslaved species had seen proof that the Zoraxians could be defeated. The war for freedom had truly begun. 10 years had passed since humans first learned they were not alone in the galaxy. The war against the hegemony had grown. Hundreds of worlds had been freed using better versions of the Freedom Protocol, but many more remained under hegemony control. The Zoraxians were afraid now. They had never faced a threat like this before. They started using terrible weapons that could destroy entire planets. 5 free worlds had already been wiped out this way. On the human ship, Liberty, Commander Steve Harris looked at star maps showing the latest battles. Steve had grown up on a farm in Iowa before the war. Now he led the largest fleet of human and alien ships fighting for freedom. They hit another resistance base, he told his crew. Planet Lyra is gone. His advisor Mira stood beside him. She was from a species called the Proximans. Her skin was light purple and she had large eyes that could see in the dark. She had been a slave until humans freed her world 3 years ago. "The Zoraxians are getting desperate," she said. "They're losing more worlds every month, but these planet-killer weapons are something we can't fight yet." Steve nodded. "We need to find where they're making these weapons. Take them out at the source." On another human ship far away, 2 scientists were making an important discovery. Lucy Patel and Rick Daniels had been studying old records from freed worlds. The records were in many different languages and from many time periods. "Look at this," Lucy said, pointing to her screen. "These symbols keep showing up in texts from different worlds, separated by thousands of years, but they're identical." Rick looked closer. "That's strange. These civilizations never met each other. They couldn't have shared writing. They worked for weeks, putting together pieces from different records. Slowly, a story emerged that was older than the hegemony itself." "I think we've got it," Lucy said one night. "The Zoraxians weren't always the rulers. They were conquered, first 500,000 years ago." Rick looked shocked. "By who?" "Not by who. By what?" Lucy pulled up an ancient image. It showed a strange device connected to the head of a Zoraxian. "Something called the Overseer. I think it's a machine, an artificial intelligence that took over their minds, then used them to conquer other species. They sent their findings to Earth. Soon, the news spread through the resistance. The true enemy wasn't just the Zoraxians, it was whatever controlled them." As this news traveled, something unexpected happened. A Zoraxian ship approached a human base with a white flag of surrender. Inside was High Commander Varix, one of the highest-ranking Zoraxians in the hegemony. Varix was brought to Earth under heavy guard. In a secure room, he met with Admiral Dawson, now older but still leading Earth's defense. "I've come because I know what you've discovered," Varix said. His voice was deep and had a strange echo. "About the Overseer." "Is it true?" Admiral Dawson asked. Varix nodded. "Most Zoraxians don't know. Only the highest commanders learn the truth. We were the first slaves, not the first masters. The Overseer controls us through implants given to us as children. We're told they're a gift from our ancestors, a connection to our past. But they're really control devices," Admiral Dawson said. "Yes, the Overseer is ancient. It may have been created by a species that died out long ago. It uses us to expand its control. It fears independent thought above all else." "Why are you telling us this?" Admiral Dawson asked. Because your Freedom Protocol did something unexpected. When used on certain Zoraxians, it doesn't just free them temporarily. It can break the Overseer's control permanently. I am free for the first time in my life. And I want to free my people. Varix gave them information no one in the Resistance had ever had before. The location of Zorax Prime, the central world, of the hegemony, where the Overseer's main systems were housed. Destroy the central node there, and the control weakens across the galaxy, he said. The Overseer can't maintain its grip without it. The Resistance leaders from many worlds gathered to discuss this information. They argued about what to do. It could be a trap, said Xanthar, who now led fighters from 30 different species. But if it's true, we could end the war, said Kate Summers, now an admiral herself. For 3 days, they debated. Then news came that the hegemony had destroyed 3 more freed worlds with their planet-killer weapons, billions more lives lost. Admiral Olivia Martinez, commander of Earth's Deep Space Fleet, stood up. She was a strong woman with gray in her black hair and fire in her eyes. We can keep fighting world by world for another 100 years, or we can strike at the heart, she said. I say we go to Zorax Prime. The vote was close, but the decision was made. They would gather the largest fleet possible and attack the hegemony's homeworld. Every free world sent ships. Humans provided their best technology. Scientists worked to create a special version of the Freedom Protocol that might work on the Overseer itself. Commander Steve Harris was chosen to lead the main fleet. His ship, the Liberty, now bigger and more powerful, would carry Varix to help guide them through hegemony defenses. Lucy Patel and Rick Daniels joined a special team that would land on the planet. Their job was to find the Overseer's central node and use the new protocol on it. As the massive fleet prepared, Lucy asked Rick, "Do you think this will work?" "I don't know," he answered honestly. "But I do know this. In all those ancient records, there's not one example of a species that fought back like humans have. Whatever happens, we've changed the story." The day before the fleet left, Admiral Martinez gave a speech to all the ship's crews. Her words were sent to every free world. For 500,000 years, one entity has controlled the fate of countless beings across our galaxy. It has decided who lives, who serves, who dies. Tomorrow, we say no more. Tomorrow, we take back our right to choose our own futures. The fleet departed the next day. Over 10,000 ships from hundreds of different worlds. They used special jump gates to travel faster than light, heading towards Zorax Prime. As they disappeared into the gates, people on many worlds watched and hoped. The final battle for freedom was about to begin. The Resistance fleet arrived at Zorax Prime after a week of travel through space. It was the largest group of ships ever gathered outside hegemony control. 50,000 vessels from hundreds of species filled the darkness of space, led by human ships with their advanced weapons. Commander Steve Harris stood on the bridge of the Liberty, looking at the view screen. Zorax Prime was a large planet with rings around it like Saturn. Thousands of hegemony ships protected it. Space stations, with powerful weapons, circled it like deadly moons. "They're waiting for us," Steve said. "They knew we were coming." Varix, the Zoraxian who had joined their side, nodded. "The Overseer has many ways to gather information. We must move quickly before it brings more ships." Steve gave the order to attack. The space around Zorax Prime lit up with energy beams, missiles and explosions as the two fleets crashed together. The Resistance had numbers, but the hegemony had stronger ships and the space stations. Inside the Liberty, Lucy Patel and Rick Daniels prepared with the ground team. They wore armor and carried special weapons. Their most important item was a device that held the master version of the Freedom Protocol, designed to affect the Overseer's systems. Colonel Paul Winters led this team. He was a tough soldier with many scars from past battles. Next to him stood Maya, a former hegemony assassin who had been freed by an earlier version of the protocol. She knew the layout of important buildings on Zorax Prime. "We'll use landing ships to reach the surface," Paul told them. "Our target is the central control spire in the capital city. That's where the Overseer's main systems are." The battle in space grew fiercer. Resistance ships exploded by the hundreds, but they pushed forward, creating a path for the landing ships to reach the planet. As they approached the planet's surface, their ships came under heavy fire. Of the 50 landing ships that started, down only 20 made it to the ground. Colonel Winters's ship was hit but managed to land roughly in a field outside the capital city. "Everyone out!" he shouted as smoke filled the ship. The team grabbed their gear and ran. Energy blasts from hegemony weapons hit the ground around them. Maya pointed to a line of trees. "This way. We can use the forest for cover." They ran through the trees as flying hegemony vehicles searched for them. The team had 30 members when they landed. By the time they reached the edge of the city, only 22 remained. The capital city of Zorax Prime was huge, with tall buildings made of black metal and blue crystal. Streets were filled with Zoraxians going about their work like machines. None of them looked at the sky where the battle raged. "They can't see it," Maya explained. "The Overseer filters what they perceive. They only see what it wants them to. See?" The team moved through the city using service tunnels and back alleys that Maya knew. They had to avoid hegemony guards and security drones. Twice they had to fight their way through checkpoints. In space, the battle was not going well for the resistance. The hegemony's home defenses were stronger than expected. Admiral Martinez's command ship took heavy damage. "We're losing too many ships," her second-in-command reported. "We should retreat." "Not yet," Martinez said firmly. "We need to give the ground team more time." On the command ship, Dr. Ben Cooper and his science team worked desperately to improve the master protocol. They had discovered that the hegemony's defenses were partly blocking their signal. "If we can boost the power and change the frequency," Ben said, working quickly at his station, "we might get through their blocks." A massive blast hit the ship, throwing people to the floor. Alarms blared. "Hegemony dreadnought approaching," someone shouted. "They're preparing to fire again." A smaller human ship moved between the command ship and the dreadnought. It was captained by Navy Lieutenant Greg Robinson, a young officer in his first major battle. "This is the Defender." His voice came over the communication system. "Get that protocol finished, Dr. Cooper. We'll hold them off." The Defender fired all its weapons at the dreadnought, drawing its attention away from the command ship. The much larger hegemony vessel turned its weapons on the smaller ship. "How much longer do you need?" Admiral Martinez asked Ben. 10 minutes. "Maybe less," he replied, still working. "Robinson can't last 10 minutes against that dreadnought," she said quietly. On the surface, Colonel Winter's team finally reached the central control spire. It was the tallest building on the planet, reaching high into the clouds. Guards were everywhere. "How do we get in?" Lucy asked. Maya pointed to a service entrance. "Maintenance workers use that door. The security is lighter." They fought their way inside, losing more team members. By the time they reached the central elevator, only 11 of them remained. The elevator took them up through the building, past floors filled with machines and Zoraxian technicians. "The main control room is at the top," Maya said. "That's where we'll find the connection to the Overseer." When the elevator opened at the top floor, they found themselves facing dozens of armed guards. A fierce battle broke out. Paul, Lucy, Rick, Maya, and 3 others made it past the guards into the main control room. Inside, they discovered something none of them expected. The room was filled with Zoraxians connected to machines by cables attached to their heads. In the center was a large crystal structure pulsing with light. "What is this?" Paul asked in shock. "The Overseer," Maya whispered. "It's not just a machine, it's using their brains as part of its system." Rick studied the scene. "It's a hive mind. The Overseer connects to these Zoraxians, and through them it connects to everyone with control. Implants." Lucy took out the protocol device. "Will our plan still work?" "I don't know," Rick admitted. "This is more complex than we thought." Just then the crystal structure pulsed brighter. A voice filled the room, coming from nowhere and everywhere. "Humans," it said, "you have caused much trouble." The connected Zoraxians all turned their heads to look at the team. Their eyes glowed with the same light as the crystal. "I am the Overseer," the voice continued. "I have maintained order in this galaxy for 500,000 years. Without me, there would be chaos." Paul raised his weapon. Without you, there would be freedom. The Overseer's voice became colder. Freedom is inefficient. Under my guidance, civilizations advance according to my design. Those who resist only delay progress. Cables suddenly shot out from the walls, trying to grab the team members. They dodged and fired their weapons, but there were too many. Use the protocol now, Paul shouted to Lucy. As Lucy activated the device, the Overseer revealed its final weapon. A screen showed a massive machine powering up somewhere deep in the planet. If I cannot maintain control, the Overseer said, then life in this galaxy has failed its purpose. This device will collapse space itself across the entire galaxy. Paul looked at Maya. The choice was clear: retreat and let tyranny continue, or risk everything. Do it, he told Lucy. Freedom's worth the risk. Lucy pressed the button on the protocol device. A bright wave of blue energy shot out from it, filling the control room. The Zoraxians connected to the machine started to shake. The crystal structure in the center pulsed faster, changing colors, from blue to red to white. System overload, the Overseer's voice said, now breaking and changing pitch. Control networks failing. The cables that had been reaching for them fell to the floor lifeless. The connected Zoraxians began pulling the wires from their heads, looking around in confusion. What's happening? Paul asked. Rick checked the readings on his small computer. The protocol is working. It's breaking the Overseer's control over the connected Zoraxians, and through them it's spreading to the control network. An alarm started to sound throughout the building. Red lights flashed. The floor shook beneath them. The space-time weapon, Maya warned. It's still activating. We need to stop it. One of the freed Zoraxians stood up on shaky legs. I can help. My name is Kelvor. I've been connected to the Overseer for 20 years. I know how to shut down the weapon. Paul looked at him doubtfully. Can we trust you? For the first time in my life, I can think clearly, Kelvor said. I don't want to destroy the galaxy. None of us wanted that. It was the Overseer's will, not ours. They followed Kelvor to a different control panel. He worked quickly, entering codes and pressing buttons. The building continued to shake. I've stopped the weapon, he said finally. But the building's power core is unstable. When the Overseer lost control, safety systems failed. This whole tower will explode soon. We need to get out, Paul ordered, and spread the word to any resistance forces still alive. Maya grabbed a communication device from the wall. This connects to all hegemony channels. We can warn everyone. As they headed for the exit, the freed Zoraxians joined them. Outside, the control room, they found more Zoraxians wandering in confusion, free of the Overseer's control for the first time. The implants have shut down, Kelvor explained. Everyone with an implant is free now, but they don't understand what's happening. In Zar space, the battle suddenly changed. The hegemony ships stopped attacking in a coordinated way. Some continued fighting, but others just drifted. On the Liberty's bridge, Steve Harris noticed the change. What's happening to them? Admiral Martinez's voice came over the communication system. The ground team did it. The Overseer's control is breaking. And Dr. Cooper's master protocol is broadcasting now, strengthening the effect. All ships, Steve ordered. Cease fire unless fired upon. Prepare rescue teams. Many of those hegemony crews may be confused and need help. On the planet's surface, Paul led his group out of the building. They helped as many confused Zoraxians as they could along the way. The streets of the city were chaotic. Some people celebrated their sudden freedom. Others were scared, having never made decisions for themselves before. We need to get far from this building, Paul reminded them. It's going to blow up. They had just reached a safe distance when the central control spire exploded. The blast sent shockwaves across the city, breaking windows and knocking people down. But the worst damage was contained to the tower itself. In the following hours, resistance ships landed across the planet. They brought medical help and supplies. They explained to the confused Zoraxians what had happened, how they had been controlled for thousands of years and how they were now free. Many didn't believe it at first. Some were angry. Others were just lost, not knowing how to live without the Overseer's constant direction. It will take time, Maya told Paul as they watched resistance teams helping groups of Zoraxians. They've never known freedom before. On the Liberty, Admiral Martinez met with Steve Harris and the other fleet commanders. Reports were coming in from across the galaxy. With the Overseer destroyed, its control network had collapsed everywhere. Billions of beings were suddenly free of mind control. Not all the news is good, Martinez said. There's fighting on many worlds. Some hegemony commanders are trying to maintain control through force, and some freed species want revenge on the Zoraxians. We need to help establish peace, Steve said. We didn't fight for freedom just to have the galaxy fall into chaos. In the weeks that followed, a new organization formed, the Galactic Restoration Council. Representatives from every free world, including many former hegemony worlds, joined to help create a new system of cooperation rather than control. Nicole Bradley, who had been a history professor on Earth before the war, became humanity's main representative to this council. She had studied how societies rebuild after conflicts and how different cultures could work together. Humans have something unique to offer, she told the first meeting of the council. We developed without outside control. We made many mistakes along the way, but we learned from them. We know how hard it is to balance individual freedom with the needs of society. We can share that experience. 5 years passed. The galaxy slowly recovered from 500,000 years of tyranny. Not everything was peaceful. Some worlds fought civil wars. Others isolated themselves. But many joined together in new alliances based on mutual respect rather than force. On the 10th anniversary of the Overseer's defeat, representatives from over 10,000 worlds gathered for a special ceremony. They met on a new space station, built from the remains of destroyed hegemony warships, a symbol of transformation. Admiral Olivia Martinez, now with white hair but still standing proud, gave a speech to the gathered beings. When we first discovered we were not alone in the galaxy, we learned that a great darkness had ruled for 500,000 years. Many thought freedom was impossible after so long, but today we stand together as proof that tyranny, no matter how ancient, can be overcome. She looked out at the crowd, thousands of different species that once would have been enemies under hegemony control. Humans did not bring freedom to the galaxy, she continued. We simply helped unlock something that already existed in each of you, the desire to choose your own path. That spark of freedom has always been there, waiting for the right moment to grow into a flame. After the ceremony, Lucy Patel, now a respected scientist helping worlds recover their lost histories, stood with Rick Daniels looking out at the stars through the station's large windows. Do you ever think about how different things might have been? She asked. If Earth hadn't been hidden all those years? If we'd been conquered like everyone else? Rick considered this. Maybe being hidden wasn't just luck. Maybe freedom needed a safe place to grow so that when the time was right it could spread. Lucy smiled. Either way, the galaxy is changing. It's not perfect, but it's free. Outside the window, ships from hundreds of worlds moved peacefully through space. After 500,000 years of darkness, a new age of light had begun.